Markets, by the way, settling out okay enough today. Just as I was coming on the air, I was taking a quick look and I could see that we actually just barely moved into the downside territory. So pretty much ending the day flat. I'll tell you, we got a rivalry going on. Janet Yellen versus Scott Bessent. Revenge of the Treasury Secretaries. Janet Yellen going on Bloomberg within hours of Scott Bessent going on Bloomberg, both communicating a very different message. Here's Janet Yellen just slamming Bessent and Trump on trade, and I want you to see what Scott has to say when he fires back.
I wonder your take on whether these negotiations, a 90-day pause for reciprocal tariffs that has been implemented to facilitate them, conversation around exemptions for certain products at the very least, are those things positive because it indicates the administration is trying to put a finer point, calibrate its tariff policy, or do they actually just sow confusion and potentially cause more harm than good?
Well, frankly, I think the entire policy has been misguided. The objectives unclear, the rationale for the tariffs that have been announced really unclear and not at all sensible. Steps toward removing the tariffs, lowering them are positive, but we're in a world of tremendous uncertainty. I have no idea what will happen with these negotiations. The announcement about reciprocal tariffs indicated huge tariffs on some countries like Vietnam or the European Union based on bilateral deficits in trade, which is in no way a measure or indicative of unfair trade practices. It was suggested that these reciprocal tariffs are in response to unfair trade practices. That clearly wasn't the case. And, for example, with the European Union, the trade barriers are very, very low. So I must say I'm confused about...
Okay, you know what? Look, she's not wrong. I think a lot of people were confused, right? Trade deficits and tariffs are sort of two different things. But here's what I'm going to say. How inappropriate is it for a former Treasury Secretary to be out there slamming? I mean, if you feel strongly, you can maybe communicate that on another level, but it was a little bit strange. Here's Scott Bessent defending his policy and saying, yeah, I've had a hand in this from the beginning, maybe not so much in the very, very beginning when basically, I'm just going to tell you guys, because I'm well sourced on this stuff. That was all Peter, okay? So that was all Peter. Scott's now in the game, and listen to what he says.
So less than 2 weeks ago, you and I were talking outside of the White House after what the president called Liberation Day, and you said you weren't part of the negotiations. Now you're leading them. What's changed in these past 12 days?
No. What I said was I didn't construct the actual
tariff rates.
The tariff rates. I've always been part of the tariff policy. I had been focusing on tax. Maybe you want to talk about that later. That's going very well. And now with the trade negotiations, I'm going to be part of that. And the president has hit a 90-day pause button, and we are moving quickly with many of our most important trading partners. So we had Vietnam in last week. We had Japanese in on Wednesday, South Korea next week. So it's going to move fast. And but the important thing for your viewers to know is we're setting up a process, and we are going to run that process. It's going to be orderly. And at the end of the day, especially for the most important trading partners, the president's going to be involved.
Okay, so that's actually good. That's good news. All right. Wojo, I love it. Wojo writes, and thank you for your generosity. Asking Yellen about the economy is like asking your friend who has been divorced 5 times for marriage advice. Yes, because you know what? Wojo's right. She's gotten it all wrong. She completely got it wrong. Don't forget, this is the woman when rates were at historic lows, and she had the opportunity to finance the future of the United States of America at historically low rates. What did she do? She opted for short-term treasuries. So now Scott is left cleaning up her mess because in a higher interest rate environment, yeah, the U.S. has to pay more, which is a drag on all of us. So anyway, Wojo, I think that's funny because yeah, she's out to lunch on all of it. I agree, but the markets are trying to digest what all of this means. I think when you hear Scott right there, what he's telling you is one, he's had a big hand in tax cuts. So that's good. We want to get those tax cuts, right? He had less of a hand in this, but now he's very, very actively involved and he's helping to negotiate these trade deals. So that gives me some relief. But you know, look, anything can happen. I mean, volatility is back, baby, right? Back. Remember to go and check out my financial research firm. Use code word dollar. That way you get it for just $1 a month for the first 2 months. If you want to invest in some of the model portfolios, we have 10 to 15 names in each one of them, 3 model portfolios. I encourage you to take a look at that. But, you know, there's a lot of volatility right now. And so having some sort of, I think, guide to understanding it all is pretty important. So take a look, 76research.com. I created this myself with a very dear friend, Rob Horton. We've been watching, by the way, as gold has soared, right? Gold is like up and away, up again today, trading at $3,247 an ounce, a gain of 0.6%. I actually bought some a little bit when it was lower again yesterday. You've got everybody forecasting big things. Goldman Sachs saying gold's going to 4K. UBS predicting 3,500 by year end. Heck, we may be at 3,500 even earlier. I don't know, but I think that a lot of this is stemming from fears over whether or not the U.S. is going into recession. I sure as heck hope it doesn't. But I can tell you that this is the talk on the street right now. People are getting worried. They wonder about what's going to happen with these trade deals and if that's going to send us into recession. Hassert saying something very different. Kevin Hassert on my former co-host show there. Larry and I used to anchor a show at CNBC. Great guy. Big believer in free trade. Big believer in the importance of the U.S. dollar, king dollar, don't forget. Here's Kevin Hassert saying, nope, no way we're getting a recession.
Speaking of GDP, I think you mentioned GDP in the economy. You're saying there's 100% no chance of recession.
Right now, the data are so strong. You've seen the jobs numbers. And we also, as you know, when we're in the White House, we get to talk to CEOs and say, what are you seeing with your orders and so on? And people are really actually euphoric that things are moving way better than the media would have you believe. And so I'm not saying that you can't have a GDP number that's a little bit disappointing or surprising. GDP now still thinks that Q1 is going to be weak. But if you look at the blockbuster jobs numbers that we've been seeing and the low inflation, which takes all the pressure off for the Federal Reserve to be worried about they're going to have to act because of inflation, that it's really a sweet spot of growth right now. And I think it's going to be even better in the second and third quarter because Trump policies will be in place. But with the jobs numbers booming and people saying that they're seeing strong sales anecdotally, I don't see a recession at all.
All right. All right, there you have it. Kevin Hassett.
Okay, I hope he's right? But Goldman Sachs saying that gold may hit 4,000. Recession or not, I think that people are looking around and saying, whoa, okay, this could be a little bit dicier, maybe a little bumpier, a little bit more volatility than I anticipated. So even if it all goes swimmingly well, I'm still trying to protect myself or hedge myself. And that actually leads to an increase. The other thing you got to think about is the dollar, right? If we are in an environment where the dollar becomes weakened, that leads to higher gold prices as well. And then, of course, the elephant in the room is that you get a lot of countries that are kind of mad at us right now because of these tariff deals, right? And so they're going to say, hey, maybe I don't want to invest in the U.S. as much anymore. If they divert their money into gold, then that also drives gold prices higher. Look, I think it's just the reality of the world in which we live. I'm not telling you how to invest your money here, but it is likely that, as things become more volatile and people become more frightened, or the U.S. dollar starts to lose its place, which is not entirely inconceivable, then yes, people are going to continue moving into gold. So go check out my friends over at American Hartford Gold. If you're interested in doing this, if you would like to invest in gold, they'll help you. You can get up to $15,000 actually in free silver by mentioning my name. Guys. So just go to trishlovesgold.com, or send them a text, 65532. Text my name to 65532. You can call them at 1-844-495-1115. But clearly, you know, gold is something that I think is one of those things that you want for the rainy day, right? I've been telling people to buy it forever, long before I ever had a commercial. I actually really do, and I buy it myself personally. It's getting trickier, but again, these estimates from Goldman or UBS are pretty significant. I would also just give a plug for my own research firm, which is 76 Research. Oh, Hugh, thank you for your generosity. I appreciate that you love the show, and I will keep up the good work. 76research.com. Go check it out. Code word $.